Welcome everybody to the Dueling Sourcers show. Today we have Erin, Mathew, and Sarah Goldberg, and both of them coming from Chicago. So welcome from Chicago. And of course, I'm Stacy Broadwell. I will be your host for the show. But first, I'd like to introduce our lovely panelists, our duelers, if you will. Sarah, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, yeah, excited to be here. My name is Sarah. I'm a lead sourcer at Objective Paradigm. We're an IT recruiting firm based in Chicago, but we support anywhere in the US. And today I'm going to be taking the what can you do with Google X-ray side of things. So all my searches are going to start on Google with, I guess I don't want to give the whole thing away, but it's all going to be what can you learn just with Google, no paid tools.
Yes, I have so many secrets and stuff we're going to learn today. I'm so excited to dive in. And then, of course, we have joining us our other dueler, Ms. Erin Mathew. Welcome to the show, Erin. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I am a strategic talent sourcer at Maxar Technologies, and our main office is based out of Westminster, Colorado, and we do government contracting, and we primarily work in building satellites and using the data from that. Something really cool that we are actually involved in right now is we are mapping the algorithms of human movement during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's been really interesting to see the correlations between the data and the spread of the virus. So until you work in satellites, you really have no idea how many ways they can be used. So that's really been fascinating.
Well, welcome to the show, ladies. We're very excited to get started. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Erin, and she's going to tell everybody about what we're going to be working on today.
We decided that we're going to source for UX and UI designers. And if you're not familiar with what a UX and UI designer does, they're kind of an interesting liaison between the end user as well as the programmers that actually make the website work. So basically the job of a UX designer is to be able to predict exactly what they're going to do when they see on the screen and how can they direct that behavior. And then when you get into the UI side of things, they're able to take the design of the UX designer and actually make it a reality. So they're much more in the detail-oriented part of it and how to make it look like the vision of the UX designer. And oftentimes you'll see that UX designers do both. You'll see UX/UI designer in a lot of people's profiles. I personally love sourcing for this type of role because creatives are really fun to look for. And in addition to that, when I was actually sourcing for them at FTD, I was simultaneously looking for an information security officer at the same time. And it was so funny to see the vast difference in their digital footprint. I would say that information security officers are very difficult to find anywhere, whereas UX designers are on just about every platform, whether it's social coding or just regular social sites. So it's not necessarily that they're easy to find, there's just a lot of ways to look for them, which is going to be really interesting to see today.
Awesome, yeah, I'm really excited for this. And I love looking for something where it's like the expectation is you have a portfolio, because I think every designer that I've ever met has a portfolio somewhere, and that's one of the things that I love about recruiting for them.
Yeah, and just being able to see their work too. I'm an artsy person, so I like seeing artsy things as well. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's get into it. I guess, do you want to start with your first tool or should I start with mine?
Sure, I'll start with mine. So it wouldn't be, a webinar with Erin on it if I didn't, blab on about Reddit at some point or another. So we'll get that right out of the way. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. So if anyone is not familiar with Reddit, it is a social news aggregation website where you can essentially discuss anything and everything. Essentially, Reddit is comprised of different subreddits, which are different topics. And since I have been an avid Redditor for a long time, I've realized that there's pretty much a community for anything and everything. And like I said, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of developer communities, and UX design is, no different from that. So basically, anytime that I look on Reddit, it has an added challenge because the user profiles are pretty they're pretty scarce. They're not going to have locations or emails or even sometimes their real name. But as I mentioned before, UX designers are just about everywhere and they've got portfolios. So what are they doing on Reddit? They're sharing portfolios, asking for tips, networking with other UX designers, and therefore, oftentimes their posts are going to lead us directly to them, even if they don't have the information in their Reddit profile. So specifically with this community, what you can do is look for certain search terms. And on Reddit, natural language search is going to be your friend, because the only identifying things that we have about people are what they disclose about themselves. So we can type in the search bar, looking for work. And then we would show the results only in UX design. So this is going to bring up any posts that people have said in this specific subreddit that they're looking for work. For example, this guy is looking for work specifically in Ireland. And then he links us right to his portfolio. If this will load, that would be fantastic. Well, there we go. And there we have a very pretty website that's created by this person. And as usual, typically of any portfolio site, they're going to give you options to be able to contact them. He's got a Twitter profile, Facebook, Instagram, even Pinterest. And I am going to touch on Pinterest a little bit later because I have discovered an amazing amount of pin boards specifically by UX designers, and I'll show you how to specifically index about that. So if we wanted to contact them, we can leave a comment, we can reach out on any of these social platforms. So really, sourcing on Reddit is just kind of following the breadcrumbs. Now, it does have its own set of challenges. I always remind people to be careful when you reach out to someone on Reddit because it's a community that kind of flocks to that platform because they want to get away from recruiters on LinkedIn. So if at all possible, if you can find them somewhere else other than Reddit, you know, you can reach out that way instead. But of course, a last resort is always direct messaging them on the platform. But there's actually several different iterations of UX design on Reddit. There's other subreddits like, let's see, user experience. And that's another subreddit. There we go. Now this one is particularly well run because the moderators actually have pinned discussions for career questions and sharing portfolios. So right there, they're leading us directly to their portfolios. And honestly, people that are sharing their portfolios or asking questions are likely preparing them because they might be open to work. So let's take a look. Let's view this entire thread. Computer's running a little bit slow. Let's see. Let's take a look at Devin Green. Takes us right to his website. Very impressive user interface here. I love that. He's even got the option, hire me, my work, what do I do? And essentially, we can find him on all of these platforms. Once again, this really just kind of goes along with what I was saying before, that UX designers tend to have a much bigger digital footprint than other roles do because they want to get their work out there. They want it to be seen. So we can reach out to this guy on GitHub, LinkedIn, his personal website, Instagram, any of those. So really, if you're someone that looks for a lot of UX designers, I recommend following some of these subreddits because you really never know what you're going to find in the monthly thread with someone that's showcasing their work. And let's see, where is he located? He's located in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So if you're looking for a designer in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, there you go. So that's just a little bit of what you can do with Reddit. So I'll turn it back over to Sarah.
I had a quick question about Reddit before we jump in. Do you ever like participate? So I was, looking for feedback on resumes. Do you ever like pop in and just drop a couple like, hey, here's what I would do differently, sort of like build your cred, I guess karma in Reddit, right?
Yes, I actually do. And there's a subreddit called Resume, and it's all people just putting up their resumes and asking for help and critiques on that. And if you really like, hackathon type stuff, you can figure out who they are pretty much, even though they typically remove name and contact information, if you're good at hackathons, you can figure out who those resumes are if you actually come across someone that you want to get in touch with. But I definitely recommend going on Resume, that subreddit, every so often to give help, because Reddit is a give and take kind of community. So you want to make sure you're giving back as much as you're taking from it.
Awesome. That's great. I love Reddit. So yeah, so I'm taking the Google side of things. I feel like it's not really a sourcing webinar if you don't just like address LinkedIn. It definitely like, it exists, you can use it, you can search it. This is, you know, how would you search for this if you don't have a LinkedIn recruiter seat? Because I know a lot of people might not have them, but still have some hiring to do. So I'm going to share my screen now. And let's take it away. So I start on, I have a Momentum dashboard, but we're gonna just do a site, linkedin.com/in, and I'll drop this in the chat after. But whenever you're starting with an X-ray search, you always want to start with whatever can tell Google, hey, only these pages, and I wanna make sure that the pages that I'm looking for just include actual users. So if you're on LinkedIn, you always want to make sure that you've got that linkedin.com/in or, you know, .co.uk or whatever you're looking for, because like whatever country, there's all sorts of different country codes. But that's just what tells Google, hey, I only care about user profiles. So the other thing that I like about LinkedIn is I always throw in an in title. So in title looks at the title of a page. It's what says LinkedIn right here, if you can see the screen. But you just want to make sure that you're narrowed down enough to say, you know, I don't look through every single word on this page. I just want to see, you know, if the title of the page is this. And the title of a LinkedIn user page always is, you know, Sarah Goldberg, sourcer. Whatever someone puts as their like high level title, that's what's going to show up on in title. So I'm going to do designer. I like to keep this super simple. Obviously, you know, we could sit here and think of, you know, 20 or 30 different ways to do UX designer or like design ninja or whatever words people use to describe themselves. I like to, you know, for this part, get it as broad as possible and narrow down further down the line. But let's just like see what this shows up, just to like show how powerful it can be. So we got 3.9 million people. Obviously, that's too many to go through. So here's where I'm going to go in and throw in some tools. So I actually like Figma is a tool that a lot of designers use to like sketch things out. So we've got that immediately narrows us down to 11,000. I know that for this, we were sort of thinking like anywhere in the US to target if we're looking for locations. Sometimes it's easier to target locations than others. One thing that's cool about LinkedIn, and you just need to spend time on the platform to like memorize this stuff, but if you're looking for someone in Chicago, if you just say the word Chicago, you'll get up like, oh, I presented at this thing at SourceCon Chicago. But if you use the word greater Chicago area, that's something that people usually only use when they're saying like, this is my location, don't use other places. So I'm just gonna throw that in just to make it easier. But you can also do this with like anything that you're looking for, but just sort of want to show down to how you would get down to exactly what you're looking for. Just like, you know, taking step by step, sort of like peeling an onion away of going from 3 million results to 353, which is much more reasonable to look through. You can also here do like remote work, remote office, something like that if we are looking for folks who are remote. And then, I mean, once you're on LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn. It's pretty basic from there. But you always want to look through. This person's in my second degree network. This person came to design from art direction and graphic design, but has since moved into delightful experiences and breakfast tacos. And then once you're here, obviously you can just send a connection request. I know LinkedIn recently removed the character limit, so there's never any harm in sending a connection request and saying, hey, I know I don't know you, this is what I'm looking for. But it's also not ideal. So I always check in that contact info, and we found a personal website, but the personal website is locked. This is going to be a great example too. Sorry about that. But you can always do, just start with that. So hopefully the personal website comes back. You can also it's not ideal, but if you ever have a personal domain, I love just running through a mail tester or Google, hello at at personalwebsite.com or first name at personalwebsite.com. Because once you have the personal website, you usually get 4 or 5 emails from it. And if it's personal, you can take a pretty good guess that it's probably going to be something there. So I would usually go through and do just to try, or do a Google search for Teresa at teresajimerson.com, and it might show up her personal email. Let's see if we can get one that we can actually confirm though. So we got someone at Tech Systems. So if you're looking for a contract designer, this might be a good place to start because you know that they're willing to work a contract, because Tech Systems is Tech Systems. I realize I'm saying this to a group of recruiters. But you got tons of UI, visual design experience. And then I also, I really love the reverse image search to try to find contact information. I also love, whenever it's a dude, it's always a gentleman. So I always do reverse image search and see what's up. And of course we get Frankie Muniz. So no luck on this particular time, but a lot of times, see, what is this? That was just redirects right back into his public profile. But a lot of times this will work out in getting to a portfolio site. But awesome. And we'll go through other ways to get emails from this and in our next one.
Awesome. Very cool, very cool. And I'm glad that you, reiterated something that is so simple but very important, and always checking the contact info link in everyone's LinkedIn profile. I think a lot of times you can get into the muscle memory of only using extensions to find contact information. But again, with people like UX designers, I so often see that it's a rarity that they don't have their personal website in their LinkedIn profile. So with UX designers, if you can find the personal website, unless it's password protected, that will lead you to so many other things. I like to say that the personal website is the key to everything with a UX designer. So
100%.
Yeah. So next, what I'm going to share with you, with UX and UI designers, most of them do have a pretty good working knowledge of most of the front end languages. So that's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, React. But there are some rare exceptions of UX and UI designers who don't code, believe it or not. But the vast majority of them do. So you might think, okay, I should go to some of the social coding websites like GitHub and Stack Overflow. But actually, there are so many social coding sites out of those two. They might be smaller communities, but eventually we kind of run out of people once we go to our first lines where we can get the low-hanging fruit. So I just wanted to feature one that Steve Levy actually showed me a couple of years ago, which is DevTio. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. So this is my DevTio profile with absolutely nothing on it because I have nothing meaningful to add to this community when it comes to development. I only know remedial HTML and CSS, and I'm terrible at JavaScript, but I'm working on it. So what I want to basically show you is that what we want to look for if we specifically want to index profiles on any kind of social website. So we can't just do a site search with dev.to with certain keywords, because on this platform, it's a lot of people actually sharing articles that they wrote themselves about certain, coding languages and profiles. So it might really only lead you to articles rather than specific profiles. So with this, what we want to do is a site search and then look at what is on every single profile page. We could do something like right here, tags followed. So as that translates to a Boolean string, we would do site, colon, dev.to, and it's already already populating, thank you. So this is what's going to happen when we type in site.dev.to, UX UI designer, and tags followed. So this is specifically going to give us profiles. And I want to make sure that we don't leave any candidates on the table. So when we take out the UI part, we got 177 more people. Basically, I just want you to take a look at this, and anytime that you find a social coding website that you really like, find out what is the unique identifier specifically of a profile. And from there, if you can figure that out, you can pretty much index any social coding website, not just dev.to. Because it's really important to leave no stone unturned when you're sourcing. GitHub is great, Stack Overflow is great, and they're easily indexed, but there's a lot more out there. Just for fun, let's put in Bay Area. And there's a whole 6 people on there, but hey, we know where they are, right? So that's just my little tip for DevTio, and I will turn it back over to you, Sarah.
Awesome. Sorry, my cat, every single time I'm on a webinar, I swear, he's just like, it's time for violence.
Oh, Grover.
I'm just sort of sitting here like, oh God, is he gonna, he was like swiping at my feet earlier. Sorry about that. So that's dev.to. I also want to show Dibble. So Dibble is a portfolio site. So here's where we're going to find more of the graphic designers. So these are going to be people who probably come to UX design from graphic design, passion for making beautiful things. And they're like, okay, we've got beautiful things, let's turn them into websites. And it's, you can, pay to post something on Dibble and get like their career site, just like Monster, just more public. But you can also, work your way around that and do all of this for free. So let me share my screen now. And I'm still on LinkedIn. So I just sort of want to show, Dibble.com. Every time that you start with something, it's important to sort of like take a second to like poke around the platform. So here you can see, sort of how it's laid out, all these different people, if people are pros, if they've got like a pro or a team, you can kind of see all the stuff that they do. But then you sort of just like click in and see what their design platform looks like. And obviously, you can hit through this hire me and like send an inquiry just like right through the platform, which is great. Sometimes you might not want to do that for whatever reason. So I also want to click through and show different ways. But, there's nothing besides the like hiring designer search, pay money for stuff. You can see there's not too many things. You've got the like shots again. But I also just sort of like played around with this a bunch of different ways. But the trick that we used with LinkedIn, where it was like linkedin.com/in, doesn't really work on this one. So instead, I'm going to do, say, dribble.com designer. And I just love, let me like show like, okay, let's start with putting a city in just to like see if it's coming up. The profile, the designer we were just looking at wasn't. But you can see, you've got some stuff going here, but it's just like designed really weirdly, and it's not intuitive how you'd get here. I mean, obviously, the first thing you want to look at is this designers in Chicago, hello@brianrao.com. But that's not always perfect, but you can see, some people have titles and lots of pride stuff. But you can see titles and emails. And when I was testing this earlier, there's a way to search Twitter bios. So let me try doing JavaScript Chicago. You can see sometimes it will take in. We're just doing like searches of searches. I'm sorry, but you can see that. Something might be scraped on Google, but as soon as you get there, it says, you need to sign in, they're sort of forcing a paywall. So it's not as free and open source as you'd want. But if you sort of keep on clicking around, I guess my favorite thing with Google is just like throw something at the wall and see how it works. I think that's sometimes like the best thing to do. But if you actually like click through, you can't actually see, sometimes the about or the like shots. When I was trying this earlier, I could get to like search Twitter bios using Dibble. I'm sorry that it's not working out just this second. But, adding that in, you get a lot of cool folks. And as you click in, you can figure out how to contact them. And then just sort of to show how you would search around this, you can find someone on Dibble, you can find their real name, you can easily follow them back to Twitter, Dibble, and his own portfolio. And things that he's designed and different projects, and hopefully the contact stuff is usually also easy to find. But today I am just not having great luck. I'm sorry, guys. But that's sort of how you can start using Dibble to search for designers and also see their portfolios there for free.
Very cool. Awesome stuff. Don't you just love live sourcing? I was like, that worked 5 minutes ago when I tried it.
Yep. It's different when it's not just like, hey, here's this beautiful screenshot that I like took in a vacuum.
Exactly. So the next tip that I am going to show is how to search on Pinterest. So I'm more of a lurker on Pinterest. I don't pin a whole lot of things, but I have found that a lot of the creative roles tend to be on Pinterest quite a lot to save, different UX design ideas that they have on certain boards, which is really smart. I think, it's easy to get a lot of ideas and then forget about them, but having a place to actually organize those is fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. So here's my sad little Pinterest profile. And once again, we're going to take a look at a user profile on Pinterest and figure out how we are going to index this in a Google search. So if we look at the URL right here for my profile, we find that there's a unique identifier, which, that's funny, it's still in my maiden name. I guess I never changed that. I've had a Pinterest account for a long time. So essentially what we're going to want to do is figure out how we can search all the URLs with that unique identifier here. And then again, we're going to add in certain things that are on every profile page, like followers or following. So we are going to do site:/.com, and then we're going to type in, oh, wait, that's not how I did it. Hold on. I want to make sure I don't mess this up. I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to do the site search from here. And then we're going to take out my unique identifier and we're going to use an asterisk. So what this is going to do in the search is it's going to fill in the missing information, and that's how we're going to get profiles. And then in addition, we're going to type in UX designer and following. Let's see what comes up. So let's click into this profile and see what we find. Joanna Dempsey, New York City UX-based designer in Brooklyn. So basically, she's sharing all of her fun ideas, personal branding, all the recipes she likes too. We might even get some talking points in here saying like, oh yeah, I love that cheesy pull-apart bread that we see all over Pinterest too. But again, this makes sense for a UX and UI designer to pin ideas that they really like. And obviously, This is a pretty big rabbit hole where you could go into other pin boards, see who pinned them, see what they're interested in, see where they work. All of this is very, very interesting stuff. Let's try a location, see if it works. May or may not. I find that's always tricky when you add that in, but doesn't hurt to try. Let's try Chicago. We got one. We got one guy. That's awesome. It doesn't look like he provides a lot of information though, but it's always worth a try. So
Erin, we
yes.
got a Q&A. Alan asks, can you talk one versus multiple asterisks?
I cannot. I don't.
Yeah.
My Boolean skills do not actually go.
I do not mean to put you on the spot, so I can take this one.
Sure.
One star, one asterisk is what you would use if you're trying to like take the place of like, hey, I want like one word or something like that. You would use stars with spaces is like if there's like a space around it, and I don't know like the actual science behind this. Someone who works in search is going to be like, Sarah, what are you talking about? But if you use spaces beside it, it actually is no longer a wildcard, but will tell you, but it sort of turns into like this X spaces away. So a search that I use a lot if I'm trying to find work email addresses, and I'll type in a chat, is you do like email space asterisk space asterisk space at company.com. And that'll show, you know, the word email this close to within 2 words of company.com. So it's just like a weird, tricky like piece of Google.
Was that just Grover meowing, or was it a siren?
No, that was a siren. Every time it's just like
I thought it was Grover. I was like, he's singing.
No, I tried to go on mute and I was like, oh shit, it's coming this way. Excuse the language. We're doing this live and unedited, and I apologize that but yeah, sirens are a fun part of city living. Yeah, okay, the siren has finally passed. So it's email@company.com, which I just put to all panelists and not to all panelists and attendees. Apologies. But that is something that would say, hey, Google, I'm looking for something that's like within 2 words. If you use one asterisk and no space like that, it's a wildcard and says, you know, replace this word with something. So it's just a fun little quirk of Google search. Awesome. So yeah, I think I'm next up, right? Awesome. So this one is, let me get to a new tab and share my screen. Live sourcing, there is nothing like it. But awesome. So next up, we talked about GitHub earlier. It is a great place to look for, you know, hardcore developers. If you're unfamiliar, I know this is really tech focused, but if you're unfamiliar with GitHub, it is a place where people can store and contribute to each other's code. If a lot of open source projects are hosted on GitHub, also a lot of companies will host their own repositories on GitHub unpublicly. So, you know, just because someone is on GitHub and contributing does not mean that you can see everything, but a lot of it is available and easy to find. And one of the things that I love about sourcing on GitHub is that if you have any kind, like if you have an account, you can create a website for free. So especially, this is often people who are earlier in their careers, they don't want to pay out for, you know, their personal domain name. Domain name and hosting space can be pretty expensive. So instead of doing that, they will create their GitHub account. And if you can use GitHub and create a website at GitHub at your username.github.io. So it is a place where you can like easily host portfolios. You often find people who are earlier in their career, but it's really a great resource. And let's do that. And that's going to be different. So now you can see I have this one pulled up, but the github.io is going to be different from github.com, but related to it. So if you're searching github.com, it's a little bit of a different animal where you're looking for like the actual repositories and the codes and the comments that people are leaving. Here you're going to see the result of the code that you're looking for. And if you're curious, you can also usually like go back to their GitHub profile and like see the code and how it all comes together, which is very cool if you are a bit of a geek. But so site github.io. In this case, I'm looking specifically for a portfolio. If someone is using GitHub to host a website for a project, really cool, not what I'm looking for now. Sometimes I'll also host resumes. And in this case, I was looking for people who have specifically the keyword UX, user experience, and just to show, like, I know we were doing a lot of Chicago stuff. I know with, you know, coronavirus and everything that's happening, hopefully more people are hiring for remote work, especially something like tech that can be so easily distributed. And here we've got 120 people. So just wanted to like click in, and you have like we said, we looked at a bunch of different portfolios earlier, but you can see that they're doing data and design, and their email, hello@website.com. I told you, it like always happens. But you can hover over and see their email in the corner. You can also right-click, copy the email address. Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub, Dibble. Oh, CodePen. Are you talking about CodePen in yours?
I am not.
So CodePen is similar to GitHub in that it's, you know, where people can host their code. It's different in that people, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, as I prepare to say this thing that I'm only like 85% sure of. It's not so much built on collaboration as it is just like hosting, hey, this is what my code looks like. Whereas in GitHub, there's all these built-in features to, you know, hey, let's make a change. Like, here's what it would all look like.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. I actually, I host my mom's personal website on a CodePen with a really long URL just so she can have a website for her crafting business. I need to really get her own domain for that.
Right. But sometimes it's harder. And you can also see the, just to go through these other ones, you've got Tableau, so data visualization side of things, and Medium. And obviously you can contact right through the page. But that is sort of like one example. And then, you know, you get back to GitHub and you got github.com/ the same username. And this is sort of what I was talking about. If you want to like actually see the code, you can see the portfolio design, the data. You can see, if you're like really curious, you know, every change that's ever been made. And one thing that's cool with this is you can see, you know, this person was updating their website April 13th. That might be a sign that they were recently looking to make a change. As we were talking, like every time you dust off your resume, you usually only do that when you're considering getting out there. So that is github.io. It's not just for developers, but often it really is. Or it really is useful. Awesome.
Cool. Very cool. So the next place that I'm going to showcase was actually shown to me by my coworker, Mike Vroman. You might have read a couple of his blogs through SourceCon, but he's always stumbling upon something that I've never heard of, and it's like this mind-blowing thing. So this was too good not to share. So sorry, Mike, for stealing your tip. This is another website which specifically is for freelancers and remote workers, and it is called Hubstaff Talent. And let me just hide these meeting controls. They're always so distracting to me on Zoom. But this is a great website. It has a lot of creatives on there as well as some really talented programmers. So we can specifically look for people that are looking for work. So we'll just type in UX designer. And then we can start adding different profiles here. Let's see, for countries. Let's just limit this to the United States. And then we can see exactly where they're located. And then it leads us to their, their salary expectations, which is fantastic to see that. And then usually, like I said, the personal website is the key to almost everything. and they have their updated resumes as well. So this website is kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. So I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't know about it sooner, because I really could have used it a while back. But yeah, she's got everything on her personal website, portfolio, how to connect with her. Really fantastic stuff. And then I've got one other platform, which I also stole from Mike Roman, sorry. Carbon Made. This is another website that is specifically geared towards creatives. So with this, it's kind of a similar Boolean search to looking for profiles on GitHub. So what we're gonna do is put in Carbon Made. We're gonna do a site colon. We're gonna have an asterisk here because that's what the unique identifier is before the Carbon Made. And then UX designer, need a space there. And look at that, 4,300 results. All profiles of UX designers. Just for fun, let's put the /UI in there. 2,200 results. Lovely. Fantastic website. Glad I heard about it.
Nice. I also, while you were scrolling through, I noticed you got some phone numbers too, which I feel like are gold whenever you just find a phone number and you're just like, oh wait, I don't need to worry about sending emails or messages that may or may not get received. I can just pick up a phone.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so and I do want to make sure that we leave some time for questions. So I'm going to try to make this my last share as well. I feel like we've done all this, like, okay, so you know about the site, let's start it. But you really, like, we went through all of these different ways of, start somewhere and get to a portfolio. I want to talk about how you could actually just find a portfolio, because all these people have their, like, personal sites. So let's share again, and we're going to still be on GitHub because I forgot to exit out. And I realize it's ridiculous to, like, type to google.com because you can just do your search in the bar, but it never hurts. So here, we're not going to start with a site search, even though that's, like, my usual default. We're going to talk that in title operator is just, like, one of my favorite operators. It's the title of the page, not the actual URL of the page. But in title, portfolio, or, I can always type it wrong. And then I'm going to search, again, UX designer, and let's do HCI, human computer interaction, is a keyword you might have seen, like, pop up in a bunch of different places. So this is something where it's not necessarily what does something look like, but the study of how humans interact with computers, how they're going to move through it. So I'm just going to do HCI. You can like spell it out. You can throw ors. Sometimes often if I know, like, hey, I'm starting with something, I will switch through and be like, okay, so this time I did HCI. Next I'm going to do I'm going to actually spell it out. Sometimes you just get so caught up in, like, let me throw in all the ors, you just waste a lot of time. So I'm just going to keep it really simple for now. And I'm going to look for remote first. Remote first was too much. And I always forgot the exclusions because we're doing this live. So I'm going to take sample hiring jobs. And here we go. Now you get to all sorts of portfolios. So you've got instructor, you can view all of these different profiles, intro, work, who am I, and then, of course, contact. And you have his email address, his LinkedIn, and his phone number with a promise to respond within 48 hours. But that's always a good thing. And then I guess you'd figure out 404 based on area code where they were located. But here you've got design researcher. We're on myportfolio.com, which I know we looked at before, and we can just download a resume or view it on Google Drive if it loads. I swear my Wi-Fi is really fast today. Here we go. But you've got you've got their website, email address, and phone number. And you know, PhD, all the way that they talk about their experience is pretty cool. Want to ignore the inspiration and showcases that find these portfolios. And here, the reason I used in title instead of in URL is because this isn't, you know, weiyineng.com/portfolio, it's just Wei's portfolio. And here we can find that they're a product designer in e-commerce, education tech, and accessibility. View their work, view the About Me. Indiana University of Bloomington. We're finding so many like Midwest folks. I love it. Then, you know, contact me pops up. You can see over on the side an email address, but you can also just grab a resume. And I bet this resume is going to have a phone number. And of course, I've got my controls right over the phone number. But you have Gmail in case the IU email gets shut down after they graduate, but you do have a Gmail address and a phone number and all of their work experience. Yeah, so now I moved all of the controls to the least helpful place. But that leaves us like 12 minutes for questions. I saw Stacy popped in something about going over Chrome extensions.
Yes,
so,
thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe even your top two. I couldn't help it. I saw as you guys turned on your screen share, I was just drooling over your Chrome extensions. And I was just like, look at that. I mean, if you just want to maybe go through each or give your top, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I can, let me reshare my screen and I'll just go over mine really quickly because mine are super, oh, the screen is like in the way again. So yeah, I am very like, I turn on my Chrome extensions exactly when I need them and then don't turn them on if I'm not like actively using them. So right now I've got WebTab, which I'm just always using. If I'm ever on a webinar and I think I don't mention WebTab, it's something has happened to me. But WebTab helps make sure, you know, I use it a lot as just like, okay, found these people, can't reach out to them right now. I'm gonna pop in one tab and then like open them all up later. Drive is just Drive. LastPass, password manager. I don't understand how people don't use password managers. Extensity is my extension manager, but I noticed on my personal laptop, my Chrome got updated and now Chrome has like a built-in one-click like extension manager. So I think Extensity and you know, all the like Chrome extension managers, like they might not be long for this world because it looks like Chrome is kind of taking that over natively. Then Marinara is, I use it as like a timer to focus. So it's really good for like Pomodoro technique. If you want to do 25 minutes of focus, 5 minutes off. Momentum Dash I talked about earlier, that's the new tab. Office, just to use Office, and then an ad blocker. And then of course, like with an Extensity, I have just like a ton of different extensions that I'm not using right now.
That's cool. Okay. How about you, Erin?
Awesome.
You want to share?
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you asked about extensions because I had like a bonus tip with an extension that I wanted to share, and I didn't think we were going to have time. So
I was afraid I was putting you girls on the spot, but I'm so glad. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So most of my extensions are for finding, you know, contact information and their paid resources that I have through my job. Like we have the Hire Tool extension, Lucia, Improver. This one I actually pay for myself because it's a nice, you know, last resort of a, you know, extension. It's free up to 10 contacts per month, and I pay for like $20 a month to have 50. And I usually, you know, since I have so many other extensions through work, I usually never get through all of the 50. I also have Glossary Tech, which is fantastic if you're sourcing IT roles because it indexes every single IT term on the page and defines it for you. Awesome. So it's a great learning experience. I like to do that when I get a new role and I can scan the job description so that I understand what exactly they're going to be doing in this role. because IT sourcing is a really big learning curve, and this is a wonderful tool to have. But the one I really wanted to show you is Rove Early. So I'm going to click this. This is a Chrome extension that randomly takes you to creative portfolio websites. Sometimes they're UX designers, sometimes they're not, but it just kind of brings you to random websites, and every time you click it, it'll bring you to a different one. So if you just want to kind of browse and see what's out there, this is a great Chrome extension to do that. I've come across some really, really interesting user interfaces just through this. So, you know, if you're, oh great, another password protected one. If you're, you know, I think that as a sourcer, we all have those days where you're just like, I can't source anymore. My brain is dead right now. This is just kind of a nice little break to have. So that's a really cool extension. And then beyond that, I have Buffer, which is you can schedule posts. And then hash test, you can actually test the effectiveness of a hashtag to see if it's actually useful, or you know, if it's not something that's even that commonly used. So those are my main extensions.
I like it. You know, on that note with the hashtags and stuff, you have a Start Me page, Erin. Sarah, I don't know if you have one, but I know Erin has one on, like, it's on videos and.
Yes, I do. I can drop that in the chat, actually.
Yeah, I came across, I was like, this is amazing. Yeah, I mean, so many useful tools on there. Ladies, thank you. Erin and Sarah, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic show. I mean, you showed so many tools, just, you know, on how you approach these roles. And I know I've had UX design roles, and I mean, just being able to, the thing about those type of creative positions is they require an extra step. So for recruiters who like have so many positions and they're trying to get through and source, it requires that extra step. So it can be like, so that's why I'm so glad that you guys went through these positions and showed these tips. So I want to make sure that everybody has your contact information if anybody wants to get hold of you. Erin, what's the best place, or how can they get hold of you if they have any additional questions?
Yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. We can chat about any questions that you have. The unique URL identifier for me on LinkedIn is Erin Mathew Sourcer, and my last name is spelled with one T, no S. That's a common mistake, but I have it in the chat right here as well. So that's Erin Mathew Sourcer.
Yep, and then I'm at Sarah E. Goldberg, basically anywhere on the internet. But on Twitter or LinkedIn, I check both of those pretty regularly. Great ways to get in touch with me. And I will also drop my LinkedIn into the chat.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Dueling Sourcers show with Erin Mathew and Sarah Goldberg. Next week, we'll be back. Fresh episodes every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be back with Dean DaCosta and Steve Levy. If you would like to be on the show, message me at stacybrodwell@techrecruit.io, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody on the next show. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye, guys.